Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to thank you for this momentous occasion, the last meeting. And I'll talk to you a little bit later about what you guys mean to Beaumont and what you've done with this committee. Jeff, let's get it going, man.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as you said, welcome to the sixth and final meeting of the Beaumont Bond Advisory Committee. Great work. We've got a lot to report to you tonight. And appreciate the great attendance. Again, Jeff Barton, for those who may be watching at home, with GAP Strategies. We're the facilitation team hired by the city. You may also be hearing from my business partner, Kara Buffington, today. Some of you have met other members of our staff who have been here from time to time. Let's talk about tonight's goals. We want to remind us all where we ended last meeting. We'll talk about the open house results. We had a really strong open house. And then there was some talk at the end of last meeting about whether we need to add drainage. That was also a topic in the open house, and we've taken the liberty of asking staff to prepare some possibilities for drainage for you all to consider. And then we'll talk about our final prioritization. And the real goals tonight are simple. Go over the open house, make use of that information, look at some new research that's coming forward from the city based on your questions from the last meeting and on the open house. And then the final prioritization and vote. So, for those who haven't been following the process, this started way back last spring when the City Council appointed your committee, Mr. Chair, and we have had a community survey. We've had an open house. We've had 6 meetings here of this committee with many people spending many hours preparing information for the committee, and you all being extremely diligent about going through that information. We've talked in here quite a bit that this started with really a broad variety of plans that have been prepared over the years by the city, looking at needs across the waterfront for the city. And that, in fact, totaled about $1.35 billion in total need. Working with you all and the city staff, that has been narrowed down to what we're going to talk about today, that's somewhere in that, $150 to $300 million range, depending on the decisions that you all make. Today, some of those projects that weren't selected is because there are other funding sources. Many of them are because you all identified that they are important, but they're, for one reason or another, not appropriate for this bond or for your recommendation to City Council on this bond project. Now, since we last met, we did complete the open house. I know that a number of you were able to attend. Mr. Chairman, I took a bite of orange right before this started. It was a mistake.
Right.
We had about 100 people at the in-person open house. About 76 of those were, not counting you all, not counting city staff. There were about 76 folks who showed up. Almost 2,600 came online. So a very strong showing at the open house. We've had a quick briefing of the mayor and the mayor pro tem just to bring them up to speed on where your committee is and talked about dates for when we would make the report. So we're tentatively scheduled again, as you all know, I think, to go July 29th next week to make your recommendations to the City Council. And then, as I alluded to earlier, finally, since we met last, looking at your key objectives from the last meeting, and then looking at the results of comments and votes at the open house, we've gone back and worked with city staff on a few options to bring before you today that you're free to disregard or use or amend, but they're trying to capture the spirit of your direction to us. Also, since we met, I think you may have read or seen in the local TV that the city is moving towards a possible venue tax proposition. Did you want to?
Yeah, can I do the slide?
Sure.
I really appreciate that. I think this slide is so important, and I'll do it really quickly. But just simply, what a venue tax proposition. So come November, we are hopeful for a proposed 2% increase on hotel occupancy tax dollars. So that is dedicated to funding a convention center project. So let me be really clear. This is not a property tax. This is not a tax on Beaumont residents, and it's paid only by hotel guests, visitors to our city. What's important about it and why it matters is that it allows us to build a convention center on the visitor's dime. It supports economic development, tourism, and growth, and it keeps Beaumont competitive for conferences, meetings, and events. So I think it's really exciting opportunity for us to have this proposition on the November ballot. Again, it's an increase in 2% of the hotel occupancy tax dollars. So if anyone from out of town were to come and book a hotel at, let's say, the MCM Elegante, they are currently right now paying 15% of hotel occupancy tax dollars. After this 2%, if it were voted in, it would be a 17%. And that 2% that they would pay on the hotel room would go directly to pay for the convention center. So again, it is not a tax or a property tax increase. It is truly just an increase in hotel occupancy tax dollars.
Question?
Question.
Sure. What is a convention center project?
Yes. So it is truly going to be a convention. So the baseline is that obviously currently the city council is adopting a possibility for a hotel and convention center project. This would be specifically for the convention center. And no matter any other intentions behind this proposition, we have to understand what the extra value is. This is additional revenue coming to the city on the visitor's dime. And it's going to be very important come November in the election that people understand that this is an increase in hot tax, hotel occupancy tax dollars, and not their actual resident property tax dollars. Again, hot tax is different than property tax.
One quick question. How much will the 2% generate?
Currently, with the estimation of roughly about $1 million a year, but that would also increase as the hotel revenue would increase with the new hotel project.
Okay, thank you.
So really exciting stuff. Yes, sir.
Christina, can I ask just one more question? Do we know kind of what the average is of hot tax for other areas in Texas that are similarly situated? Like, we're not getting ourselves way out of a market.
We are definitely not. In fact, actually, this has been going around since 2017. I can tell you 14 other cities that are including a venue tax, and many of those cities are actually maxed out at over 19%. So not only are we not maxing ourselves out, but we have to really understand the amount of our average daily rate in the city. We have a very low average daily rate. If you were to try to get a hotel right now, your average daily rate is anywhere from $118 to $125, and you could still get an $89 a night hotel room. And again, there's 3,800 rooms in the city of Beaumont.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Thanks, Christina. So again, I think you heard context, but I want to reinforce that context. This does not directly relate to your work on the bond, right? This does not need to be included in the bond recommendations. This is separate. But we have talked from the beginning that, well, there were some downtown projects that might complement some of the work that you're talking about. So we just want to give you that update, that work is continuing. The city council and your staff continue to work on these projects that may come to fruition around civic center improvements, maybe a downtown hotel, that sort of thing. You all have already made the decision, really, that's going to be pulled out of the bond and left to developers and the city. All right. Christina, did I hand you the clicker? Nope, I lost it myself. So, again, a lot's gone on since we talked to you last, but really much of it flows directly from the decisions you've made and questions that came up. Let's talk about the open house. I think at our last meeting, you all predicted a lot of the questions that would come up in the open house. Very strong response. 2,661 folks if you combine online and in person. A reminder that people could go to beaumontbonds.com and take it from July 4th to the 14th. In fact, we had a lot of people right on the 4th jump straight in and take the survey. We saw a little bit of difference between who took it on the 4th and who took it later in the week. It kind of balanced out as time went. We saw different parts of the community weigh in, whether you took it on computer or phone. We tracked that. We also looked at whether these responses seem to be indicated by bots. We have software that will check by that. There are certain key indicators. If lots of responses come in too fast and people are being able to answer the survey in 30 seconds, gives you a clue that it's bots doing it. So we did not see any kind of irregular activity. We also do some spot checks, and this is really Kara's domain and the security here. But the bottom line is the survey seemed sound and there were no noticeable irregularities. Thank you. Just so not to confuse anybody, we earlier did a community survey and I was using imprecise language here. When we talk about the survey here, I really just mean questions that we asked at the open house. So as part of the open house, people went through and there were a number of questions related to the golf course, related to the police headquarters, and related to, one of them was, do you think the committee is headed in the right direction? So we'll talk a little bit more about those as we go. Again, the in-person open house was on the 12th. Some of you were able to come by. It was good to see you. We had a lot of folks and a lot of good questions in person. People were also invited to make open-ended comments, either in the online survey and also in person by paper.
The information and the questions were identical, whether you participated online or in person.
So it was come and go. There was no formal presentation, but people online were directed to go through and get the same kinds of boards, really the same kinds of information that you got in person, which described the process that you all have been through, and then each of the topic areas you've covered, parks and rec, facilities, and so on. Gave some information that you all have seen about demographics in the city, the last time you had a bond, what the tax rate is. Tried to summarize and condense a lot of the information that y'all have been exposed to. So that's what we mean by a forced flow. People need to go through and get that information before they got to questions. And people could stay as long or as short as they wished. And then there were these open-ended questions at the end. Again, we've just been talking about this. Here you can see some of the boards that were set up on easels here in this room, and very similar information available online for those of you who saw it. So, as I just mentioned, we asked a number of questions that you all had instructed us to put out to the public for some feedback. One was, how do citizens feel about the golf course, the police headquarters and the facility study, and then also, again, are we generally on the right track with this committee? So the golf course, if you see over on the red, there was a majority of folks who said, yeah, we're not ready to put the golf course on this bond, or we'd recommend against it. We provided a good bit of information there on the board about the golf course, said the committee was looking for more input from the public offered a couple of, several alternatives, and you can see the golf course just isn't a priority for me right now. It's 53%. The city should wait and do more research. Got 23%. And next, the city should include money in this bond, 19% and 5%, not sure. Police headquarters. Again, we had some photos of some of the flooding that's happened in the police headquarters. Under the chief and his team, we're here to answer questions. Online, people could go and get additional information about the police headquarters, much of the kinds of things that you all have heard. And then we talked about the facilities assessment that the committee is leaning towards doing, which, as you recall, is a study of all of the facilities in the city to see how they might be optimized, how they might be used, what the police station needs, but also what other facilities and other departments might need. You heard some examples of other places where the city looked at maybe wanting to expand City Hall and found they could buy some time by just moving records out to another location. Those are the kinds of things a facility study will look at, as well as more detailed pricing. We explained that, and then the results were this. Option in the blue, you can see we should do a facilities assessment now, and once we've determined better pricing and long-term needs, build a police headquarters either out of other funds or a separate public safety bond. 36%. Then 31% in the red, I'm not in favor of funding a police facilities assessment or a headquarters, 31%. And go ahead and include funding in this bond, even though pricing and long-term facility needs are not set. The police headquarters is urgent enough that the city can use approximate numbers from other cities to come up with a dollar amount. So that was 27% and about 6% undecided. So plurality saying, yeah, we're interested in a police station, but let's figure out what we're doing first and wait. And then, do you feel the BBAC is headed in the right direction? Simple yes or no question, 54% said yes. We're going to get to the next question in a moment, which indicates that actually support's a little higher than that. On this question, the respondents had to figure out, well, what is the direction here? Because the golf course is maybe yes, maybe no. We heard a lot of people say, we had a lot of open-ended comments ask about drainage. Quite a number. And we had this police station question. So even with that uncertainty, we had 54% say yes. So I think we'd like to see that 54 higher, but there's a really good indicator that in fact community support is a little bit higher of the general principles, and that's because this next question is how much would you be willing to pay for these projects? And we started at $10 and went up from there, which is approximately where you guys have been, right? And essentially 60% are willing to pay $10 or more a month. Some are willing to pay quite a bit more, $20 a month or more, but at least 60% are willing to pay $10 and up. So I think if you combine that with the question before of 54% say you're headed in the right direction, but 60% say they're willing to pay for the projects that are in the bond. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but that 60% compares favorably, really, to the early community survey in the spring. Because the number was a little smaller, and people were saying, well, what are you going to put on the bonds? So as people have learned more about the bonds, seen your work, and seen the projects that you've selected, the numbers have actually gone up. Just a few, these are meant to be carried. Do you remember how many comments we had overall? Quite a number of open-ended comments. This is intended to just be reflective, kind of summarize where they were. Residents, you already heard me say there were a number of comments, both in person and online, about wanting drainage and sewer, street and sidewalk improvements, that was a top priority. So 185 people took the time to make individual open-ended comments. Police headquarters, there were a lot of comments, again, speaking to recognizing a desire and a need for improvements to the police headquarters and for wanting to address crime. But they did skew towards saying, hey, we're not ready to spend $100 million until we understand what's going on with overall facilities. And then downtown improvements. We did not have very many people actually criticize the downtown improvements themselves. There were a fair number of comments saying, well, I've lived in Beaumont a long time and I've seen things tried downtown and it's never really worked out. I'm skeptical. Can this really make a difference? Can it really happen? So we did not see very many at all that said, well, I don't like the sportsplex or I don't like the riverfront property. It was, is this real? And then the golf course, some very strong supporters, a lot of interest, but I think, but people saying it was too costly for what you're getting. And in talking to Jimmy Neal and some of your staff, I think you've said that they'd willing to go back to the drawing board to maybe bring something forward at a later time that might be looking for innovative ways to cut some costs there. So with that, I want to talk just briefly about drainage. We took the liberty of asking staff to really go back again and take a hard look at drainage. There seemed to be a lot of sentiment to us on the committee last time for really understanding better what's going on with drainage and really prioritizing that. When we got to the open house, unsolicited, lots of comments that reinforced that. It's worth pointing out that the open house did occur on the weekend of the Kerrville floods, so I'm sure that really heightened it in people's emotion. But with that context, we spent a lot of time talking to your staff about, well, what could be done? And I want to start off by saying, you know, there is a separate effort, just to remind all of you, you've heard this. For folks who may be watching at home, it's worth reminding that it's not that the city is ignoring drainage. The city has a plan to address drainage and considers it an urgent concern. So there is, this bond package is part of a broader effort to address issues in Beaumont. And the city has a plan to address brown water, has a plan to address sewer and drainage improvements. Even given that, I think considering what we heard from you all, and what we saw at the open house, we wanted to at least come today prepared with some ideas to put drainage front and center on the bond package.
Good.
And
Great.
And look for ways that, you know, drainage, though the city has that in the plans, if it's on the bond, then it's assured, right? If you vote for it, then a future council is not going to change their mind. There's not going to be a downturn. That money is already approved and paid for and prioritized. And it's a way for citizens at home who don't really understand the complexities of certificates of obligation and 5-year plans to see that, yes, the city is addressing drainage. So Molly's prepared some slides. Molly, do you want me to run through those, or do you want to come give a quick overview of some of the projects you've identified that you think could really be a benefit? There's a tightrope to be walked here, because if a bond election is turned down by citizens, as a reminder, you have to wait 3 years before you can bring that specific project forward. But Molly's identified some that are system-wide, that would benefit the whole city, and that she thinks would be appropriate for the bond.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Molly Villarreal, Public Works Director for the City of Beaumont. I want to walk you through some 4 key drainage initiatives that we're proposing for the bond funding. We believe that we do have a strong case for infrastructure investment. Collectively, these projects will improve our stormwater infrastructure, hopefully reduce some of our flood risk, and support long-term system maintenance, which we're finding is one of the key issues that definitely needs attention that we're working through in the capital program already, but we're going to bring these to the forefront and discuss them and bring them for your consideration. So there are 4 projects are the Broad Oak Street outfall ditch, and I'll go through the details of each of these projects, but this is the overview of the 4 projects that we're going to discuss tonight.
Could you let us know whether, I don't know what area of Beaumont?
Okay, yes, I'll walk you through those details. Yes, sir. So the first one is the Broad Oak. So Broad Oak is probably the last street to the north as you're headed towards Lumberton. You know where the Coca-Cola facility is located? That's Broad Oak. There is a ditch there that needs attention, and we'll describe in more detail when we get to it. The next project is the West Lucas Storm Sewer Rehabilitation Project. This is the actual construction of the structural lining of that existing pipe. Third, we have our citywide ditching program. That is a program that is currently underway. This would transition that funding, again, out of the certificates of obligation to the general obligation bond election.
What is ditching what does that mean? You digging the,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And our fourth one is the citywide storm sewer cleaning project. So we'll start with the Broad Oak Street outfall ditch. And this Broad Oak Street, of course, is the one that's in front of the Coca-Cola facility. There's a roadside ditch that then travels to the east, crosses Hellbig Road, and then the natural channel meanders through the Pine Island Bow Estates neighborhood, trying to get to Pine Island Bow. And so this project, the ditch has become heavily overgrown. We don't have access for maintenance. All of the property for that ditch, except for a small portion, is privately owned. So we do not have access to go in there and actually maintain that ditch. And so it has become heavily overgrown. This area has been heavily impacted by floods in the past, notably Hurricane Harvey. But there's some other historic floods of record of Pine Island Bow and that northernmost portion of Beaumont, that this ditch, by cleaning it up, opening it up for maintenance, would relieve the flooding issues in this area. Apologies. The estimated cost right now in the FY26 CIP is a little bit north of $400,000.
Ms. Molly,
Sir,
with these 4 projects that we're discussing, are they already a part of 2026? Or can you?
some of them are part of 2026. This Broad Oak project is actually, 2025. The Broad Oak is actually proposed for 26. Yes, sir.
And if this did move forward with the bond, does that mean something else would move up?
This would identify funding faster for this project to move forward. Yes, sir. The benefits, of course, to this project is to restore that ditch's capacity, to protect the surrounding homes and businesses that have experienced flooding in previous events. We'll being able to maintain, by acquiring the right-of-way, we would be able to maintain that ditch regularly, preventing future blockages, and long-term, trying to improve the reliability of the drainage in this location. So here we have a map of the area. So this ditch starts in front of the Coca-Cola facility. As I explained, it travels east and crosses under the railroad track and Hellbig Road, which I think in this area is actually Sherwood Drive. And then, as I mentioned, it does meander through the Pine Island Bow Estates neighborhood to discharge to Pine Island Bow. So this area has been heavily impacted in previous flood events. This would assist us in being able to provide more reliable drainage service to this area. Yes, sir.
You stated that you all had not been able to do maintenance due to the fact that it was privately owned property.
Yes, sir.
So what's going to happen if you try to move, say it's successful, will we have to acquire that property?
Yes, sir. Those costs are included in that cost estimate. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the first step.
Okay. We don't really have any idea how much that would cost to
We have appraisals run on those parcels, and so that was part of the basis for the cost estimate that we prepared. So we've done some homework on it, so that's where we hope that our cost estimates, the appraisals are still good and valid, but there is a demonstrated need for improved drainage in this neighborhood.
Okay, if the city acquires that property, will there be any other use for it other than going in to do the maintenance for this particular project, or?
I wish I had photos of the view from the ground where this ditch crosses. If you travel across any of those roads, I think it was Pine Haven, Glenbrook, Forest Glen, Holiday, not so much Holiday. Holiday is at a consistent elevation, but Pine Haven and Forest Glen, there is a notable drop in the road as you're traveling through it, down to the ditch and then going back up. It's solid vegetation. So the water is fighting to get out through there. So our plan is to remove all that vegetation, cut down the trees, actually shape this ditch into a channel that could then more readily carry the flow out of this neighborhood.
Molly,
Sir?
sorry, but when you are acquiring land, you're just acquiring right-of-way on both sides of the ditch, right?
Yes, sir.
So
They
normally-
platted the subdivision over that ditch, and so there's individual lots that would need to be.
So what are you usually getting for right-of-way on both sides of the ditch? 40 feet, 60 feet?
We want to get once we establish what the proposed channel needs to be, which we've not started the study on this yet, but once we identify what the actual channel width is going to be, we're going to need to go at least 25 feet, preferably more, on each side from the ditch top to be able to access it on both sides.
So it's basically building sort of a rough roadway so you can drive your tractors down and.
Absolutely,
manage on there.
yes.
So it's not a whole lot of land. It's not like we're getting a chunk of land. Just a-
Yeah, we've learned some hard lessons about not acquiring necessary right-of-way for that maintenance. So, but once we know how wide that ditch needs to be, then we know how much wider we need to
think
go
so,
for
yeah.
access.
I was about to ask what the percentage of the project would be acquisition, but more importantly, with the improvement of the drainage situation there, what water flow would it affect most that's presently draining that area? I mean, is it going to impact another community?
It's going to be, this is a pretty isolated project for the Coca-Cola facility, for the businesses that are along Broad Oak. I keep throwing Coca-Cola out there because that's the most present in my mind, but I believe there's Quality Mat in that area as well. And there's some businesses around there, plus that neighborhood as well, because the roadside ditches in that neighborhood are going to this channel on their way to Pine Island Bow. Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
wanted
ma'am.
to ask, so the right-of-way, the cost for that, is that a one-time thing, or will there be a recurring cost to that?
After we acquire it, after we construct the improvements, then it would be a maintenance cost with our, through our operating fund to make sure that that ditch stays mowed.
But no other payments to the property owners?
Once we acquire the property, it would be the city's property in fee.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions about, so our next project, are we entertaining questions from the audience?
Yeah, I apologize. For members of the audience, we're really glad you're here, but we just had so many questions in so little time that we're going to limit questions for now to just a few minutes.
So our next project is the West Lucas Drive Storm Sewer Rehabilitation Project. The West Lucas from Folsom Drive south to south of Laurel is a large diameter steel arch pipe. So it's about 12,000 linear feet, and the pipe has deteriorated. So the scope of the project includes stabilizing the surrounding soils, which is currently in progress at this moment and funded through our certificates of obligation. So we're stabilizing the soils around the pipe. Then the construction project, which is estimated at about $11.2 million, will make the necessary point repairs to that line, and then we will apply a structural cement liner from the inside of the pipe. And of course, you know, this project is important to preserve a major trunk line in our system that gets water, that collects, you know, down Gladys, down Delaware, down Phelan to the DD6 ditch, which then connects to Hillebrand Bio. Like I mentioned before, the estimated cost is $11.2 million. The benefits of this project is that the cement liner is a structural cement. So basically, we're building a pipe within the existing pipe. So we're going to extend the life of the existing pipe, and this will avoid the full replacement cost to dig up the pipe and replace it. I know that we were all terribly inconvenienced with the repair that happened at the corner of Gladys and Lucas right at the holidays, and that was because of a major defect in that pipe that caused a cavity that had to be addressed and repaired. And that was just one location, so you can imagine how disruptive it would be to dig up this large diameter, which is about 72-inch diameter, or, you know, taller than me, pipe, and dig it up, replace it, and restore the pavement. It would be incredible, and it would be much more expensive. We have found that the structural cement liner solution has definitely reaped rewards for us, that you're able to reestablish service quickly and with minimal disruption to the area. By stabilizing the surrounding soils, we're preventing the soil erosion that could lead to cavities and pavement failures. Using this trenchless technology, of course, reduces the traffic disruptions and impact on the neighborhood. So we do feel that this is a high-value, cost-effective investment.
Ms. Molly,
Sir.
with this option, how long does it extend the life of the pipe?
We have received service life estimates upwards of 50 years. And so that is what their engineers were willing to sign off on. They feel that it could last longer, but they wanted to guarantee the 50-year life. So shown here is, oh, sorry.
And this project, is it a part of 26, 27, as far as already in the plan? Where does it fall?
It is currently scheduled for construction in FY26. And this is, again, this would be one that would move that from the certificates of obligation to the general obligation bond. And so here we just have the limits of the construction, as I mentioned, from Folsom Drive to south of Laurel to that Drainage District 6 ditch. There's not a whole lot to see. The soil, the grouting injection to stabilize the surrounding soils is currently under construction now. There's not a lot to see. There's not a lot of disruption. So we are certain that by doing this stabilization of the exterior of the pipe, we're preventing the migration of the soils. And so we have time then, if we were to move forward with funding this through the GO bonds, we have that time to make sure that that gets taken care of.
Molly,
Yes, ma'am.
how are you? Can you explain what is the structural liner? What is that consist of? What is that? Is it wrapped?
It basically looks like a troweled-on grout, except that the components of this grout contain the epoxies that make, it's literally going to use the existing pipe just as the form. And then they either spray on or trowel on the new lining, the new grout, and once it sets, that creates the new pipe inside the outside. So you're no longer depending on that deteriorated outside pipe. You're now focused on the interior pipe. And it's also going to improve the flow characteristics because that existing metal pipe is corrugated, which I can go into the engineering if y'all want to, but it slows down the water because it's a bumpy road as it's traveling down. By adding this cement liner, it makes the interior smoother and help that water continue to flow. So it's going to help, even though we're making the pipe slightly smaller, the water is able to travel a little bit faster, so we're not going to lose anything hydraulically.
And it's going all the way down, not just at the parts that are damaged?
The entire length of the pipe, so that way we eliminate any joints in the pipe and eliminate the points where it could fail in the future. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
When we rebuilt Lucas, is that when we installed this faulty pipe?
Yes, sir. There were some.
How long ago you're a lot younger than me. Tell me how long ago it was when we replaced Lucas.
Do you know, Joe?
25?
I think Lucas was probably around,
The
around
early
this
90s?
area,
Yeah.
probably 20 years ago. At that time, there was two options, the concrete pipe and the liner, and the liner was much, much cheaper. And
You're saying concrete pipe, are you talking about reinforced concrete?
reinforced pipe, correct.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, I wasn't in my area, city engineer at that time, and public works director, they made decision to go with the corrugated pipe because of the cost saving. And the corrugated pipe life expectancy is around 20, 25 years because it's thin corrugation and the soil in this area is hot, can attack the pipe, and that's what we're seeing today.
It's a metal pipe.
Metal
Yes, sir.
pipe, that's correct.
That's what we're tearing up at Maury Myers Bridge. You see that metal pipe that's in that Maury Myers Bridge.
It's an
Very
expensive
similar.
pipe, and it structurally is fine, but it doesn't last as much as long as a concrete. Molly, I have a question for you. Have this application been done in this area, or do you know
Yes, sir.
how does it behave?
We've been very pleased with the results we've received. So the first application that we've used of this line was on a 72-inch storm pipe along Threadneedle Road. So the down Threadneedle is a large diameter storm pipe. It crosses MLK next to Texjoy, and then continues across the ExxonMobil property, trying to get to the Neches River. And there were some issues with that pipe. A large portion of that pipe was brick, and we were able to make the necessary point repairs, basically the same process we're proposing here. Make the point repairs and use that structural cement liner. And we are in the process of doing our 5-year follow-up inspection. But to our knowledge right now, we have not had any issues with the pipe so far. After that, a cavity opened up on Long Street at North Pine Street, where the BNSF railroad track makes that curve. Suddenly there's a hole in the ground. And so that's a good time. And that was an old concrete egg-shaped pipe that had failed. And it runs parallel and underneath the railroad on Long Street. And the implications of digging up and replacing that line were very expensive because now you're affecting the port operations and their military cargo. So the railroad approved the use of this structural liner. Their engineers reviewed it. They were satisfied with it. And we did the same process where we injected grout on the exterior to stabilize the exterior of the pipe. We did the trowel lining on the interior, and everything appears to be performing just as expected. We are scheduled to do a follow-up full inspection in the next couple of years. So far this has performed well, and the railroad has been satisfied with it.
I would add too, from an ExxonMobil perspective, that we were pleased with the lack of impact on the surface. It seemed to be
Yes.
very focused in one area without a lot of disruption to the surface. So that
Yes, ma'am.
seems attractive to me for this project.
Especially as much traffic and as much that goes on up and down Lucas, that is very important to us. Yes, sir.
Considering the benefits that you have described for this particular use of this material,
Yes, sir.
has there been considerations of using that on the east side of Lucas going towards Pine. I don't know if there's a need or not, but I didn't know if that had been considered.
There is a portion of a large diameter storm sewer line on East Lucas, but we want to hold off on that because the drainage district is considering a project that would go along West Lucas, north and east on East Lucas, and that would follow a lot of that same alignment. So there may be an opportunity to remove and replace that pipe. So, but otherwise, yes, that is definitely an option that we would consider if the DD6 project does not move forward. Yes, sir.
And the time frame on that, is that, we talking about 10 years?
I don't have a time frame from them. I think that they're just now exploring the feasibility of pursuing that study. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. So, any other questions? Okay. So our next project is also currently identified in our FY25 CIP and will continue into our FY26 and moving forward. The City of Beaumont maintains approximately 316 miles of roadside drainage ditches. So our project funds annual cleaning and reshaping of 20% of those ditches annually, so roughly 60 to 65 miles per year. We reshape the ditches. This is not to deepen them or widen them. This is to go ahead and mop them out, put them back to the correct grade that they should be, as well as reset any culverts that are more than 3 inches out of line. Either they're too high or too low, we reset those culverts. And also with this citywide ditching, it includes the purchase of equipment so that our city crews can better respond to drainage issues directly. So the benefits of our citywide ditching program and equipment, is to, of course, provide regular maintenance to prevent these blockages that before they cause flooding. We have completed 40% of this project so far of our first pass across the entire city to reshape these ditches. We have found that in the areas where we have performed this work, the calls for issues has dropped considerably. So we are seeing benefit to this. And also by having the new equipment, again, it allows the city to respond faster to emergencies and continue to support that long-term care as we may have worked in an area, somebody put in a driveway, somebody took out a driveway, we can go and help make sure that there are no obstructions. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, so this is estimated cost at about $8 million. So this puts us at about $3.5 million, or just north of $3.5 million per year, and includes almost $1 million worth of equipment purchase. Equipment, what does that mean? That means the grade-alls, that is the Vector truck, the flush truck, to clean these culverts out and make sure that they're mopped out. So it's a little bit difficult to see here, but this is a screenshot from the city's website. So if you go under Services, Public Works, there is an option to look at roadside ditching program. And you can view the live map of the work that we have already completed. So the roads that are highlighted in green are the locations that we have already ditched. And you can see that we've done quite a bit of work across all 4 wards. So Council recently awarded the contract for Phase 3. So this gets us from 40% to 60% of the roadside ditching, this again, of the first pass. So the areas in red are the streets that are proposed to be worked on. They've been identified in the contract, and now we're just waiting to finish executing the agreements so the contractor can go to work. Are there any questions on this one? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to add what Molly said. We have a large number of open ditches at the city of Beaumont, and they serve 2 purposes. One, to detain the water. It's part of the detention. Whenever it rains, it goes to these ditches. They detain it for some time, then they release it. Improvement is needed because the road in Beaumont failed because of drainage and heavy roads. heavy equipment on top of it. So if you have poor drainage, the road cannot support the heavy weight. So this project, I personally recommend because it improves the drainage, improves the maintenance, and extend the life of the roadways, and et cetera. It's a good project.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. And last and certainly not least, our citywide storm sewer cleaning. So we manage about 421 miles of storm sewer lines, and many of them are long overdue for their cleaning. This project will focus on removing the sediment and debris from the storm lines and the inlets throughout the city. It really has improved our drainage system-wide. We have examples that I will show you here shortly. We estimate $6 million, and we have engaged a couple of contractors. Louisiana floods as much, if not more, than we do. And this company has really done a great job of identifying these locations and getting them cleaned up. And so we anticipate to spend about $6 million in this initiative. Currently in the FY25 CIP and proposed in the FY26, it is identified as, well, hang on, let me make sure I say it right, but so I don't lie to you. It's kind of a mouthful. It's currently listed as our annual stormwater pipe inspections, point repairs, and data asset management. So what we are recommending, though, is, and the most urgent need, is just cleaning. Restore the flow capacity of the storm sewer system. So that one facet of that mouthful of a line item, that one facet to focus on cleaning the lines, that is what we're proposing to add to the bond election. So again, most importantly, restore the flow capacity, reduce the risk of ponding in our roads during these heavy rain events, prevent the stress and damage to the pipes over time. If the joints were open, you continue to saturate the soils, you destabilize your backfill, you cause problems down the road. You want that water to flow through the pipe and go on down the river, basically. And this really is a necessary investment in our infrastructure. So what I'm going to show you now is a series of before and afters. I don't know if y'all included all the ones I put in there. So these are from various locations across the city that we have performed work in. We did some work in Caldwood. We did some work on Highland. Highland is really where we saw an immediate benefit in these recent rain events. So this project here on the left, the pipe is about 30% full of mud and sediment. It's got debris and beginnings of root intrusion. And on your right is the after. This little frog, I think he called the executive office because he got displaced, but he was very happy in his pipe. That was 50% full of mud. And once we cleaned that pipe out, we were able to restore the full flow capacity. This is on Highland, and we aren't really sure where that concrete debris came from. I'm sure there's a broken storm line somewhere. And so our Highland project, although we are working on completing those plans, we were able to provide a benefit to that area right away by removing obstructions such as these and identifying where the point repairs need to be made and include those in the contract, rather than having them surprise us during construction and trigger a change order. Here's another example of 50% complete, completely packed with mud. And then the after. This is a little bit hard to see, but this was a root ball, and I don't remember which project this was from, but it had completely blocked the storm line, and so nothing was getting past it. And we were able to remove that successfully and restore the flow capacity of the pipe. And so just more and more and more examples of why this project is important. And we thought we had a failed pipe. No, it was just dirty. So that's where our projects are. So if there are any questions, yes, sir.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to tell you and your team, thank you. At the last meeting, we had real concerns about this. We brought it up. You said you were going to come back with some identifiable things, and you did that. Thank you. But if you can, for those members of the community that are not as privy to what you've shared with us, can you kind of highlight yourself on the money that has already been allocated for these upcoming years for drainage and sewage, so that we all know what is going on and that you are addressing the concerns of the citizens?
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you for that compliment. So we are working on doing a better job of communicating and the work that we currently have in progress, the money and the work that we have done, identifying how much did we spend, what was the area of benefit, because that is an important story to tell, and thank y'all for that feedback to help us understand that we need to communicate that better. And so, for example, on this annual stormwater pipe inspections, back in, I believe it was like FY24, I think we started with about $1 million per year. We quickly went through those funds. And so for FY25, we proposed $2.25 million per year. And so what we're proposing for starting with FY26 is stepping that up incrementally to account for inflation. So we don't want to lose any ground on that funding, but that money has paid dividends for us, especially as these cavities open up. You know, it's very disheartening to get that phone call and they're like, there's a hole, and you're like, great, that's a good time. It's not a good time. And so that is money that we have been spending. This citywide ditching program, we started at about $3 million per year. And so that was FY 23, 24. And like I said, we're 40% complete now. With the contract that was just awarded, we're going to be 60% complete. That work should be done before the end of this coming fiscal year. And that one, but we're continuing every year, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. So we're continuing to escalate that. And one of the questions that came up is, okay, well, what happens after you're 100% complete? We're going to go back and address any other issues that conditions can change. But the other issue that comes up is the neighborhoods where the roadside ditches have been piped in, you know, because they want that continuous look. And the city standard used to allow from the road, you could pipe in your ditch. You just had to have a couple little inlets, and then it's easier to maintain. Unfortunately, those pipes are undersized. They're not set to a proper grade. And so now we're going to have to go back and start addressing that. So first flush, get the ditches open. Second flush, make sure the ditches stay open and start working on these longer culverts on those roadside ditches. And then in addition to that, of course, we have our grant-funded projects, the Laura Addition drainage improvements, the upcoming Phelps Road drainage improvements, which is more of these roadside ditch improvement projects, and our underpass maintenance. We started that a couple of years ago when we started having these issues with the underpasses. All of that goes to our resiliency for flood protection. So right now we're spending $300,000 per year, and we are proposing for FY26 to accelerate that to $400,000 per year. And we're also applying for grants for the underpass flooding early warning system improvements, because sometimes the underpasses, even when they're functioning perfectly, they get overwhelmed in these intense rains. Want to be able to notify the community, turn around, don't drown. And of course, the Broad Oak project as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Molly, again, want to echo Sean's thanks to your committee. This is very responsive and it's very compelling, so much so that now I'm really terrified that if it gets voted down, that we won't be able to do it for another 3 years. So can you slow that down and explain why we're very confident that if we put this on the bond, we won't be shooting ourselves in the foot if for some crazy reason it happens to get voted down? What is it about the nature of the projects or the wording that allows us to do that?
We were very specific and very targeted in the projects that we focused on and identified projects like the Lucas that if for some reason it was voted down, we've stabilized the soils around it to preserve that life until the time expires to go in and do the lining. For the Broad Oak Street, it's a project that is identified for future. We don't have a definitive timeline on that. It is a great project that we have, doesn't have a hard timeline. The storm sewer cleaning, we wanted to make sure that we targeted that and broke that out separately from our inspections, our point repairs, and all that, so that we have a specific scope of work. And with our roadside ditching as well, just make sure we have a targeted specific scope of work. And I definitely cannot take all the credit. Mr. Williams and Mr. June, we sat down last week and, they really helped us identify and shape how we propose these projects to y'all. But yeah, I was looking for the line item for the TUMS between now and Election Day, because I think that the infrastructure needs are first and foremost in our community's minds. We can show a demonstrated benefit to these projects, and so it is my expectation that the community will agree with us that these are worthwhile projects.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very, very much. So that the people can see this, they understand it, and you letting them know exactly what's being done.
Yes, sir.
That's very important. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Molly, before you exit, we had some discussion last meeting about the amount of money that's already been proposed for the various projects, be it year 25, 26, maybe even as far as 27.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly, but was it something to the tune of about $74 million or something? I think that's been dedicated for projects.
60-something.
And that's my concern, is that if it might get shot down because these might be funded in the future, it would just take longer to go into fruition, and because they are going to be funded eventually.
Yes.
I think most of the people looking at the right now, even though they are later, I think people looking right now with the
Yes,
drainage problem.
Yes, sir. And with our asset management and the investigations that we're doing now, the investigations that we plan to do in the coming year, we expect that, God willing, we have another cycle for a future bond election, that we will be able to present more targeted projects as well. So that's our hope, but we're definitely not slowing down on the work we're doing.
Well, the reason I was raising the issue about the amount of money, I think it's important for the public to understand that if that money stays exactly where it is and we move forward with those projects, additional funding through the bond would make these other projects come online quicker and not affect those projects that have been predetermined already, because the biggest frustration that the average citizen hears or gets is that it's in the planning, it's in engineering, but we're not ready to move forward on it. So this would assist us to keep that in place and move forward on other projects. So I just think it's important that those that are present tonight hear that and understand why this is still critically important and should be part of what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
I have one question here, or comment. The first project you have, it's a good project. I'm not against the first project. The challenge you're going to have acquiring the right-of-way, it's going to take you minimum 2 years to get the right-of-way.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have one property owner decided not to sell, then you have to go to condemnation.
We have to go through the process.
So is timing 2-3 years going to affect your bond? That's the only question, the only concern I have of the first one.
No, and that is a valid question, and that is definitely something that we probably need to sit down and take a look at.
It might be a good idea to keep it, might be a good idea to pull it. I don't know, just.
I can address that a little bit. When you talk to your financial advisor and just experience with other bonds, I think what you'll do is not sell all your bonds at once. So you'll probably have bonds that are sold in tranches. The first one right away to get engineering started or to get projects started, and then another one 2-3 years down the road to finish out. That way you're not paying interest on the bond, on the full amount of the bonds the whole time. So great question, and I think it would be up to the city and the bond administrators at that point to really slide that money in for that project when it's needed.
Yeah, I had a question for you.
Yes.
In consideration of what we're talking about, our concern of it going, failing, and now we don't have the funding source. In looking at the other infrastructure projects, what was the feedback you got from the community survey about the extensions or the sidewalk? Did it seem favorable or not? And the reason I ask that is, if we were to throw this in, clearly people are really concerned about drainage. Do we have to consider altogether or potentially carving that out as a separate?
Good question. So the question is, how do people feel about other infrastructure projects? Sidewalks, I don't think we got a single negative comment. It wasn't a passion project for a lot of people, but we did get comments supporting the sidewalks and 0 comments opposed to sidewalks. I think in person there were a lot of comments generally supporting it. And generally, Kara, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on the roads, pretty similar. The road extension projects, there was a little bit more debate among folks, but still generally very favorable. So I think, and I would go one step further. What we did see was a number of folks said, hey, without singling out one or another, just said infrastructure is my #1 priority.
Right.
Just very quick before we get into final prioritization, good evening, everyone. I just want to piggyback a little bit off of what Ms. Jobe and also what Mr. Villery Samuel have said. Our job at the end of the day is to try to pass or try to get this bond approved and get public support for it. And that means that, you know, there's going to be certain items that I think we may want to revisit that because of the nature in which we've approached these meetings and the line items that we've looked at, and they've gotten more detailed and we've started to break them down a bit more. I think we started with projects that didn't really seem to have a lot of strong public support in terms of the initial questionnaire that was put out. We noticed that infrastructure was of very, very high importance, and now we're waiting until the very last meeting to even bring that up. So what we ended up doing essentially is taking this potential pile of money that we could invest and looking at, you know, parks and other sorts of projects that maybe have a little bit of interest in certain areas, but maybe not overall being the strongest items that the public wants to support. I would recommend that as a committee, maybe we look at some of those expensive projects that maybe landed in Tier 1 or maybe had been kind of put in Tier 1 when we initially looked at this and maybe reconsider them as well.
What specifically, what do you?
For example, I would say the downtown revitalization projects. After consulting with some of the, people who are representing our community, representing our wards, it seems to me that that maybe is a project that could wait. That, unfortunately, because of the nature of that project not being maybe a priority, it could cause the rest of these items to be shot down, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking of the downtown sports complex.
Yeah, I would say everything on that page, to be honest.
And that, so that includes, your comments include the riverfront park extension?
That would be the 3 projects in that group: Riverfront Park Extension, security cameras, and the sports complex.
Yes, ma'am. I'm interested in hearing if anybody else has other feedback on that, but it seems to me more of a nice to have, maybe not an immediate need for the public.
And I would like to comment. One,
Would you move the mic over closer to you?
I apologize. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that is a very important consideration, and it's important for us to consider all of these different things. But one thing I do believe is that one of the concerns from folks that I've spoken to that call this community home as well is that they've heard not yet. If we would have waited, we would not be sitting in this building. And clearly this building has shifted the way in which people perceive Beaumont. We have grounds to make. So I think the benefit of the way in which we could structure it on the bond by making just downtown, the riverfront project and the sports complex, its own line items, people can vote it up or down, and it wouldn't affect anything else. So I do understand the concern about a big ticket. It would be more of a concern for me if we were lumping all of this into one. Then that would be a significant issue. However, if we have the ability to carve it out, I think that gives everybody the ability to make that decision of whether or not it is time or if it is not. And I see the downtown cameras on here. I thought that was already allocated from the city. Is that on the bond again?
If somebody from staff can correct me, but I believe that there are some that are already allocated, but this would expand the number of cameras and enhance those.
Yes, sir. The only comment I have about wait. Wait means more money in the future. If you can't do it now, build it now, and enjoy it while you can. I lived here 4 years in Beaumont, and I've seen downtown growing. Today, Beaumont downtown is different than 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So wait means more money. Keep this in mind.
I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, I think the whole point of the open house and the questions that we posed was so that we could reevaluate our orders. So I agree with your general concept and direction. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings, instead of this being a downtown subsection of the bond, for it to be a basically self-funding sports complex subsection of the bond, because I think when people understand that that one is an income-generating project, to me, that smacks a lot differently than a downtown bond. So I agree with you that as we go through this final prioritization, that's exactly why we did the open house, was so that we could revisit some of these ideas. So I support that.
And Mr. Chairman, maybe as you all talk, it may be helpful to move on to the next slide here, just to remind you about money. This will give you some context maybe for further discussion. Let me grab the mic. So remember where we landed, just a refresher on where we landed last time as we went to the open house. Parks and Rec at 34.4 million, plus there's some in second tier, but we've removed those at this point unless somebody wants to bring those up. We're assuming those have fallen off. So 34.4 million in Parks and Rec, 15.1 million in facilities, that's the animal care and the fire station. Infrastructure at that time did not include drainage.
Right.
So that was sidewalks and roads at 66.5. And then what's shorthanded here downtown, but what we've sometimes referred to as community revitalization, right? Downtown community revitalization at 63 million for a total of 179. And a couple of things that that we wanted to test at the open house. The police headquarters for 100 to 110 million, and the golf course for about 24.2. This is a good time to remind all of us, I know we've talked about this a number of times since really the second meeting, but just a reminder that when we see these numbers, they don't match up exactly with what you see staff talk about, because we have added a contingency fund and added inflation.
Right.
So you'll see them a little bit bigger. So for instance, you saw Molly talk about those numbers. Those are her estimates, but then we added some additional contingency.
Jeff, could you do me a favor for everybody? So with that 34.4, specifically, what were we talking about to come to that number?
Do you have those, Kara? I can call them out here.
Yes, so I can.
Absolutely.
So people can look at it.
If you recall, that includes playground equipment.
Okay.
Throughout the city for about well, let's go to the inflated values. If we were talking about with inflation, then that's on page 1 of your handouts there. 1.2 million. The community park in Ward 1 for 4.7. The community park in the south end for 4.5. Renovation of restrooms facility-wide, 1.8. Oh, sorry, I apologize, those were all the numbers, but some of those were tier 2, so let's talk about only tier 1. So tier 1 is the playground equipment for 1.2, the renovation of the restrooms for 1.8, Terrell Park, 24 million, essentially.
Mr. Barton, would you remind us, would you just remind us what was maybe included in that South Loop upgrades, just briefly?
Yes, you want to talk a little bit about the upgrades? Kenneth, forget parks.
So can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, could you just give us some highlights of what the South Loop upgrades were, considering it is one of the larger ticket items?
Well, if you can picture just south of the...
Put your mic up to your mouth.
If you can picture just south of the golf course, you have the Nature Center, which was a large investment by the city, opened up a couple of years ago. So that large area in the back of that area. It would include new cricket fields, basketball courts, tennis courts, large playscape, large splash pad. It's in our parks master plan, so it's part of the incentive to basically turn Terrell Park into a regional park. There's a large lookout tower that you could walk up and look out all of Terrell Park into Cattail Marsh. There's learning stations, mural areas, just a learning tool for kids of all ages, for adults to come out and play. I think I mentioned soccer field, cricket fields, you name it. That's what's there.
Just you alluded to it, but I just want to emphasize that point, or maybe you can expand on that. There was a parks plan that was developed with citizen input. You adopted it this spring, I believe.
Yes.
And so there were landscape artists and citizens who sat on the committee that developed a number of proposed improvements.
And it also includes drainage inside of the park as well.
Okay.
None of this money will go toward the enhancement of the north entrance?
There will be some enhancement of the,
I
so
happened to
there's two
drive out
entrances
there
that go to Terrell Park.
I drove there Sunday, and I spent 2 hours at Terrell Park. And I hadn't been to Terrell Park since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And it's deplorable. The horse stables are horrible. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could spend money on. But the entrance on the north side, which I think all the golfers come that way, if I'm not mistaken, I saw that looks pretty bad. And we got a whole lot of dead trees out there. Just one ton.
It's a continuous battle removing those dead trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that we can appease some of the other folks, the Botanical Garden.
Botanical Garden,
Can we talk to those people and have some dialogue with those people to figure out what they're looking for? They do serve a purpose. And those ladies are a pretty powerful source. And I don't think you want to take those ladies on if they decide to come down to the city of Beaumont and have a discussion with the powers to be. I would tell you right now, I'm standing in line and popping to attention and saying, yes, ma'am, I'm there. So I'd like to see us at least open up some dialogue with everybody where we can take something and help those ladies and those groups out.
June, could you address what he just said about the ladies?
Yes, sir.
I passed that on to the city manager as well as you. Sam?
Yes, June Ellis, Assistant City Manager, and we do have regular contact with the staff at the Beaumont Botanical Gardens, and as a result of what Mr. Lewis sent us maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we reached out to the staff at the Botanical Gardens once again, and this is what we as a city proposed. We proposed to them a Botanical Gardens master plan. So one of the staff members out there reached out to a consultant and submitted to us just last week the cost for a potential master plan for the entire Botanical Gardens. And we will be considering that plan as we consider budget recommendations this week and next week.
That's great.
That would be something done outside of the bond then? It would be funded by the city's budget?
Yes, sir. That would be funded from the city's general fund budget.
That's good, June, that's great. Those ladies there, they have you at attention. They don't let you move, man. I
They don't
respect
give
it.
up.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we partnered pretty well with the ladies out of the Botanical Garden. You know, they sponsored a lot of different projects for the city that we maintain now for them. My department, we actually help out ongoing with maintenance inside of the Botanical Garden as well. So whenever they call us when they have a need, we go out and help them out.
That's great.
You and I are talking about the Botanical Gardens, while that money includes a number of very specific programs, there is a little bit of discretion here to move some of that money around to the Botanical Gardens or someplace else after master plan is done. Is that correct?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we can take funds and allocate towards it.
I mean, you were here with me for the open house. Those ladies were here in force.
Oh, yes.
And their,
To say the
and
least.
their spoken concern to me about that is that they use that facility late at night, and they kind of felt like roadway lighting would be very important to them and like a big deal. To me, it doesn't seem like that would be a gigantic ticket item to kind of work into the thing. And it's important for all of us. I mean, I go out there, my wife goes out there for photo club meetings at that same facility, and they're out there at night. So having the streets with good lights and in and out of Terrell Park, I think is very important.
Yeah, Terrell Park as a whole is really a diamond in the rough. You know, we need investment throughout the park, including the golf course. You know, we need to relook and rethink how we look at that as well.
So that gives you, does that help you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. I mean.
I guess there's also the athletic field conversion is in tier 1. So maybe we let Kenneth sit down too much or too quickly. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, sir.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that one of the projects that actually would bring the city money?
I think that's the expectation, right?
Right.
The complex?
The redoing the fields off of College? Yeah.
So there's where we ended up, and now just to get conversation started, right? This is us, not you all, and I want to make that clear, but we're respectful of your time. So looking at the conversation we heard from you all, you know, we've developed some numbers, and I just want to give you the assumptions that we went through, right? You can undo any of this, but to give you a starting place, one possible way to approach this, since we had a number of folks on the committee and at the open house said, hey, let's hold off on the golf course, maybe develop other options on the golf course. If you left that off, on the police headquarters, we really had a lively discussion in this committee. We had split opinion in the open house, but we had a pretty clear plurality who said, let's wait, and then another significant number that said, no, not at all. So there was a majority that really said, hey, let's slow down the police station. We asked staff to look at, are there some temporary solutions that would really help the police department, improve performance, really save records, improve morale, that sort of thing. So Kenny Smith and his group at facilities came up with about $3 million of critical improvements that you could make to kind of extend the life of the different police stations and the different police facilities, help get the records up out of the flood, and buy some time to really get the facility study done and come up with a longer-term plan. So let's just say that if you inflate that out, it's about $3.4 million. It's a whole series of seemingly pretty strong, small recommendations, right, to improve that. Then you just heard about drainage. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that you were to decide to add in those drainage projects. This is where that might bring you. or would bring you. Parks and Rec, 34.4. Facilities now becomes 18.5 with the addition of that help for the police department.
3.4, yeah.
Infrastructure now becomes 94.6.
Let's park right there for a second and break that out.
Good. So Parks and Rec would be the tier 1 projects that you've seen. So the ones we just discussed, nothing on tier 2, just the tier 1 projects. Facilities would be the police station, the fire station that you've said was a priority, the animal shelter that you've said is a priority, and $3 million plus for temporary improvements, or shouldn't call them temporary, for immediate improvements to the various police buildings.
Right.
Then the downtown, what we're calling downtown, and again, you could call that economic development, downtown, community revitalization. That would be the park extension, the riverfront park extension, the sports complex that's intended to be this regional economic driver, and the security cameras for downtown. So that would get you to 210.5 million roughly.
Did you do the infrastructure?
And the infrastructure breakdown would be the
Oh, my
citywide
apologies.
sidewalk initiative?
Sorry, thank you, both. The infrastructure breakdown would be the sidewalks, okay, where we've got $5 million, do a plan, and begin to implement it. I think there's been some misunderstanding because it was shorthanded. That's not just the plan, that's to begin building sidewalks. Then the road projects that we've discussed.
Yeah, the Dallin Road extension.
That's the Dallin, that's right, North Point and the Dallin Road extensions.
To 10?
All
Right,
of 10.
all of the extensions.
Correct.
So that leaves them all in there, right, to get them down to 10 and open up, both relieve traffic and open up some new area for development. And then it includes the drainage projects that you just heard about. About $26 million in drainage projects.
And that is still falling in line with the $10 to $15 that
That's right.
payers are
So
okay with.
the next slide, we wanted to be able to give you some idea of where you were. Well, I guess I've got a couple slides of that. So yes, that is still within the 10 to 15. In fact, you're going to see that would come out to about $11.24 on the average monthly bill. So we had been talking about somewhere in the $12 to $15 range. That puts us slightly under that. It makes, I've heard several of you say, and we heard citizens say, they want to see infrastructure as the #1 priority. That would be the largest part of the bond package. And then there would be several ways that this could break out, right? Prop A, you could do, this is again, will be finally determined by the City Council, but just a few ideas about this. So Prop A could be 94.6, Prop B would be facility, Prop A would be Parks and Rec. So this is just one way. We're going to show you 3 ways, okay? 3 ways this could break out. One way, you could take the downtown projects, which both relate to parks and recreation, the Riverfront Park Extension and the Sportsplex, and you could say, we're just going to call those Parks and Rec. We're going to have one big Parks and Rec. Then Parks and Rec becomes very large, 96 million. Then you have public facilities and safety, because there's nothing left downtown except the cameras, so that would go in with facilities. And then you'd have infrastructure, roads, and sidewalks. Another way would be to break that out the way we've been discussing it and the way we just broke it down. So you've got Parks and Rec, facilities, infrastructure, and downtown and community revitalization. Another way, really, to think about it might be, I'm interested because it kind of came up. We were thinking about this same way, and it came up just a moment ago. The Sportsplex is kind of a separate kind of an issue, right? It's about economic development and downtown revitalization. So that could be its own proposition down here, Prop C. It's the sports complex and the security cameras downtown. People can make their judgment on that issue. Then you take the Riverfront Park, which is really a park, and you throw it in with Parks and Recreation. So you have 46 million there. the facilities and public safety is just simply the animal control, the fire, and the urgent police repairs. And then infrastructure would be roads, sidewalks, and drainage. In that case, infrastructure is the largest. It addresses the priorities that citizens have seemed to express, that you all have expressed. We have parks really all grouped together, and the issues that are really about downtown, I mean, a lot of these touch on revitalization, right? The Riverfront Park certainly touches on that, but you get down to really just the economic drivers of what the sportsplex might be, then that becomes its own issue.
Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff, do you really mean A, B, C, and D?
D? You have two.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
You're not,
Yeah.
Maybe-
And I would even suggest, just to make sure that the public knows that we've heard them and we understand the infrastructure, to actually, I know A, B, and C doesn't really mean that much, but maybe put the infrastructure as A.
Yes, I think it's a great point.
Yeah,
Right.
infrastructure is A, because we know we've heard you.
That's what the people
Yes, and we want to do that, and then we could do, B and C for the other ones. But I do think, because infrastructure is very important.
Great point. And we got some feedback from your financial advisor just minutes before the meeting started, so we were tinkering with this slide. Thanks. And I think that's a good idea, and certainly one maybe the committee might want to recommend or the council could think about.
Hey, Jeff, how specific or vague does the titling need to be? So like if you go back and on Prop D, I mean, would there be a potential, because I don't want people to feel like we're hiding the ball when we say downtown and community revitalization, when both of those are downtown projects. But also, and I could see security cams getting popped back up into facilities and public safety like you
Right.
had in the other option. And so then could that leave Prop D, instead of like downtown or community revitalization, it's just athletic complex?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have a lot of freedom. You and the city council, you don't have unlimited freedom, but there's a lot of freedom in how you describe that. So that could be athletic complex downtown, absolutely. I think, that started, as you were alluding to, with a lot of potential projects in there, and now it is perhaps down to a few.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Once whatever's decided tonight is presented to the council, can they massage this again?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think the mayor and council have indicated they really want some direct advice from you, but especially as you begin to craft how it will actually look on the ballot, I think you should expect and maybe encourage them to have some flexibility there and get with attorneys. Yes, sir.
And kind of extending from what the chair just said, this can be presented to council. Council can review and says, we don't want to do any of it. And
That's correct.
Yeah, that is
so
what.
we're just providing suggestions.
You're providing a formal recommendation to council. They've indicated that they're going to take it really seriously, but the final decision is theirs.
And the other question, as we were talking about the golf course, my understanding is there was really three different options. One, 19 million, that was everything. That was a $14 million version. Then there was one where we just fixed the drainage, and that was closer to 500, I thought. Is that, considering that we're going to be putting that type of money to Terrell Park, does this incorporate the just fix the drainage on the course?
I believe this does not address anything. If we take the golf course out at this point, there's nothing in there for the golf course.
But there is something for drainage.
There is something for drainage, so I think, could that be, I guess the question is, since there's drainage money applied for Terrell Park, my answer would be, the way I've seen bond councils interpret that is, if you get your basic improvements finished and there's additional money left in Parks and Rec, you could certainly extend it to that. If there's additional money in that, even that Terrell Park line item, if you come in under budget, you could come over to the golf course and work on that.
Since we're talking about Prop D, I was just curious if maybe the security cameras, because it does seem to have a lot of support from everyone that's spoken and talked about it, could possibly be funded outside of the bond as well?
Yeah, I think surely, or Christina, you wanted to say something about that?
Yeah, just really quickly, I think it's really important as we address crime in downtown, the focus here is not that cameras can't be funded, just like June had mentioned of cameras being funded for the parks in the previous year. This idea is that we would have the right engineered cameras to ensure that the facilities and the investments that we're making downtown are not only secure, but allow for us to maintain safety. And I really wish that y'all could have been at the police's demonstration this morning, because he was able to showcase one camera that's located on top of Edison Plaza. And that one camera was able to not just zoom in to where we are right now, but it was able to zoom in to multiple different facets of downtown. And so that's what's exciting here, is that now with the RTCC, we have the real-time crime center, okay? Potentially there are going to be new additional funds to allow for more employees to address the real-time crime center. And so I think it's also important in this bond to include the funding specifically for these downtown cameras, so that we can guarantee and address the crime and safety of downtown that so many are not necessarily misconstrued, but to be honest, a majority is vagrancy, right? A majority is homelessness. And so to be able to address that truly needs the investment. And when people vote on these projects, they need to feel like that investment is heard.
Makes sense.
One thing for you,
Yeah.
while you have the mic, can
Yeah.
you highlight when we say sports complex, what that is? I don't know. if
Man,
people appreciate
oh, I'm so excited you said that,
Got it
because
going now, man.
no, it's not that. It's truly because before we came into this meeting, we actually got a benchmarking summary that includes the economic impact of what this site could be, whether it's a low performance, a middle performance, or a high performance. It's a 14-page document. Y'all are actually going to get it emailed to you by Kara so that you could have some of those numbers and figures. What's important to understand is that we are proposing in 8 basketball courts that convert to 16 volleyball courts and 27 pickleball courts. Not only will you be able to utilize the entire facility for events and meetings, but you'll also be able to have, very similar to this room right here, separations, right? So you could be hosting a trade show and a basketball tournament at the exact same time. And we've got to truly understand, remember that visitor spending, that visitor economy that we have, $391 million, right?
Yeah.
In doing a quick KFDM earlier, we were talking about simply this. The economy of Beaumont, with just the residents, with the 115,000 residents, is just one number, right? And it cannot grow unless a little bit of the funding that they get for, let's say, if you were to get a raise at your job, right? But outside of that, that's all the money Beaumont has to spend. When you start drawing in the visitors, you're bringing in additional funds to this area. And so that's what's so important about this, and especially with the notation of a 2% venue tax. So that 2% venue tax is going to help a convention center and hotel project. Guess what else is going to help keep that hotel project filled, right? A sports complex. And I have to say this because I'm very familiar with our athletic complex. We know College and the area that College Street has, but here's what's so important that downtown needs the most. More than cameras, more than development, it's people. And so we as economic development are going to do everything we can to draw more residences, and we have a plan. And that's what's so exciting about this, is that right now y'all are seeing all the different pieces, and shortly in the next few months as we get closer and closer to this election, you're gonna see the entirety of the master plan, and it's all gonna come together. And you're gonna start to see how each one of these projects facilitate are gonna support the others. And I will stop talking.
Not yet. I have 2 questions. Just remind me, because I remember you talking about these 2 things. Number 1, how soon will it be able to pay for itself? And number 2, why was this not attractive for a private investor to come in and do this, and it was more attractive for a community to do it itself? Tell me those 2 things.
Okay, first of all, Sports Facilities Company, the people who have done this benchmarking summary, and you're going to look them up. It's called The Sports Facilities, right? Very easy. Go online. What they do is that they come in and they manage those properties. So because of that, all of these cities and multiple cities, and Round Rock is one of the best ones to look at. Please look at Round Rock, Texas. They have done an incredible job with it. And so what happens is that the city makes the investment for this company to come in and manage it. And so they go out and they attract the tournaments here. And they're already working with tournaments from all over. And because that's what's so exciting about this tournament business is that they move. And if any of you have kids or are constantly traveling, you're going to see you don't keep going to the same place. You consistently move to different locations. And the most exciting part is that this 8 courts is going to be directly located next to what? The event center, which is a perfect location for award ceremonies, for additional VIP events. And so, you know, we have to see that 12 acres right now is undeveloped. It's just sitting there. There's very few events, and I know yours is one of them, but still, look at how much green space we still have right here that your cook-off could easily go to. It's very similar to Mardi Gras, right? Right. And so I can't say enough about the fact that we have undeveloped land that is sitting in a prime location located directly off Interstate 10 and along the Neches River. And if y'all could give the city the chance to show you the master plan that will be coming out in the next few months, perfectly timed out right before this election, you'll see what the council is stepping towards, and that's the future for Beaumont. And it takes money to make money, and it is our time to grow. It is our time, and in order for us to do that, we're going to have to spend money for development, but within that money, it's going to bring jobs, it's going to bring more revenue, and it's going to bring more people, and that is the goal.
One quick question. The distance from the west of us and east of us, what's the 2 cities that have something like this?
Size.
Oh, size?
No, not size, distance.
Close. Okay, so.
You said College Station was one?
So Baytown, thank you ExxonMobil for being in the room. So ExxonMobil has just signed off a contract for a sports complex in Baytown. It will only have 4 courts. And what that does is it actually puts them outside of regional, state, and national tournaments. It is a requirement to have 8 courts. Yeah.
7 hours.
Yeah.
7 hours.
College Station, you're right. College Station and then 7 hours to Alabama as of our current location. But please remember, College Station is not off of Interstate 10.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people who do not bleed maroon and gold, maroon and white.
I think it's interesting that we're talking about, and I'm glad this came up because that was one of my concerns. I've kind of read the temperature, and hopefully I'm wrong, of the committees we've talked about this downtown development, or the sports complex, but I do see it as a very instrumental tool in bringing about the growth that we have not seen down here. Now, I've been looking at this probably for 30, 40 years. Why our downtown doesn't make it compared to other metropolitan areas where it turns over and it happens and it continues to happen. And I'll spend some time looking at various complexes. I mean, be it where the Cleveland did their baseball park downtown and all of a sudden downtown development took off again. I mean, there are a lot, you can look right there at Houston. Some of the things they've done in their downtown area with Minute Maid Park and the lofts and things like that, those were areas that were becoming blighted because one thing about Beaumont now, when you come downtown and you look around, you're trying to get out of it because there's not a lot down here. And I'm just speaking honestly as a person that love Beaumont and want to see something change, but there are a couple other different things I've been thinking about as we've been talking about the numbers and the proposition and the locations. We were talking about creating a destination location. We were talking about creating, being a regional type of entity that could bring a lot of attention here. I mean, I've even seen them want to come from across the bridge here to do different things, but we didn't have the facilities. Now, also back up a little bit, we've had Fort Park. We've done things at the Beaumont complex, and what we've done in a couple of different times is not step far enough out to make it a compliance type of venue for all types of leagues to come in. Now, I also remember that there have been points in time with just children with the baseball program, people coming as far as Alaska here in Beaumont. And the city sold out. There were no hotel rooms, there were no places you could go to, restaurants. I mean, the dollars turned over and the money was made, and that went on for a number of years. I don't know what happened to that Little League program, but it used to fill up the whole entire city every summer with just people coming in. And you're right, people will spend money on their children.
Always.
Or their grandchildren to be there with them, because, and I had a young cousin that traveled across the nation playing volleyball. She's at A&M now, but I mean, this week they were in California, next week they were in Florida, the next week they were in Kansas City. I don't know how their parents afforded it, but they did it. And what I'm really trying to say, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised if we can come up with a venue of that nature that will pay for itself, but it'll also create a lot of interest in Beaumont. And the thing that I fear most, Baytown seems to be shaking up a lot of things. They're less than 60 miles away from us. And if we don't watch out, they're going to leave us in the dust. And they're a smaller municipality than Beaumont, Texas. Also look at the activities taking place in Lafayette, 120 miles away. We got to kind of come out of it and start thinking a little bit more forthright as to how we can make things happen in our community that people want to come to and be part of. We got some very positive things. We were talking about Terrell Park a while ago. Terrell Park, somebody stated correctly, it's a jewel in the rough. There's just so much we haven't developed in that park. But if we start doing the things, I mean, when we talked about Cattail Marsh, I mean, I was there, and people thought that was a crazy idea, but it's panned out.
Oh, I was there too.
It's working. People come from all over the country to go watch birds.
Yep.
So I said all that to say this. We need to think seriously about how a athletic complex could actually benefit the community. The other side of that, we've got a lot of things in this bond issue that a majority of Beaumonters would like to see happen. Nobody wants their home flooded. Everybody would like to see economic development, be it with the expansion of streets, but we still need to do something that children are addressed in this deal. And the last thing I'll say, Mr. Chairman, and I'll stop talking, Riverfront Park in its original heyday was a place during some very tough economic times where families came together on Sunday. If you all remember that. And we had activities there at that park where people came from all throughout this community, all various walks of life. But that was a time when we were Beaumonters, and we did some things together in various groups, sponsored activities that made this a better community to be part of. And I hated when the park went under, but for years and years, I mean, some of you may remember Sunday in the Park, but the best thing about Sunday in the Park, it helped the affluent come down and meet people who didn't have the resources that they had. It gave families an opportunity for a place to go who didn't have money to go elsewhere. And it was something that the city did. So I'm just hoping that we'll give this thing at least a breath of air to think about it, because we've got a lot of things in there for a lot of people. But I think we're forgetting one segment of our community, and that's our future.
Right, and I just want to say 3 quick things to that. First of all, this is strategic, okay? We are not just talking about San Antonio. Last time we went, it's $200 to $300 just for a hotel night, right? Sometimes these tournaments are costing outside of what these families can afford. This is a drivable market. We are intentionally targeting an area in which they're going to use Interstate 10. They're going to pack up their kids and they're going to get in their car. And guess what? Our hotels are affordable. Going downtown to the museums is affordable. We have Museum Row, an entire row of museums, 6 museums within a 10-block radius. At one point in time, we were known as the museum capital of the world, right? So we just have to, and not to mention how many athletes. The best part about this complex is that there is going to be a hall of fame. When you are walking, you are going to see the name of all of the famous athletes in Beaumont, because these kids need a role model. They need to look and see some of these incredible names and where they've come from and feel like they too can do it in the same way. And I am so excited to tell you about Riverfront Park and the transportation. That is the next phase of this entirety project. You should be able to get on a boat at Riverfront Park and take you to Poor Natchez, a wonderful brand new establishment that we're already seeing development in smaller suburbs. That development can come here. But we as a city have to be susceptible to change. And that's the one thing that I truly ask out of every one of you, is that when y'all leave this room, you get the word out, because there are so many loud voices on social media that are just misinformed. And these projects are truly going to make an economic difference.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate that energy.
Mike,
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
appreciate the passion there.
Wait a minute.
Hold on, hold on. No, I do have one more question. So jumping back to Katie's question, which there was an article that came out last week about Port Arthur's expansion, and that looked like it was privately funded. So I know we're going to get questions from people saying, all right, Port Arthur found a way to privately fund their baseball parks, and it looks like they're going to expand, and it said pickleball courts and all. So I just need to know,
Okay,
that
so
ours is going way beyond, and I need to have some talking points to explain
Okay, so
why
they're funding
ours can't be
fields.
privately funded.
Right. So they're funding fields, baseball fields, very similar to the baseball field conversions that you have slated in here. And not to say that, baseball fields are a lot cheaper, but you don't have the overhead of putting, a building and a facility. Now, when you look at the actual facility itself, it's not that the facility is making the money, it's the indirect revenue. So the facility at the end of the day is going to come out pretty fairly even. Even if it's a low performance, in a low performance, the model, which she is going to email, it shows maybe a negative of $300,000 a year as a low performance venue. So there's not a lot of money in the venue itself. The money is in the indirect revenue from all of the people that are coming here, that are staying in your hotels, that are spending money in your restaurants, and honestly, that truly wouldn't be coming into your city without this tournament. And that's what we have to understand here, is that Beaumont is a historical, incredible landmark for the state of Texas. But people are not coming here unless they are working here, unless they have family here, or unless there is something driving them here. And so we have to create some of those drivers. And honestly, I would love for Kendrick Perkins to come back to Beaumont and want to invest $50 million of his own money, but at the end of the day, he's not going to have that type of return, because you pay $300,000, give or take, to the facilitator, the company who's managing it. And these types of companies maybe return anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million, and if it's a high performance, anywhere from $2 to $5 million. But to get to a high performance takes a few years. It's not going to be automatic. But the best part is that even in a low performance, it's projected at under, $300,000 to $400,000 a year of cost.
And what is the talking point on why they are able to do it in Port Arthur, but we can't here? Tell me.
So Port Arthur only used so Port Arthur was $12 million, and that is a different type of revenue because of baseball fields. And Jimmy could probably tell you more about how much more money baseball fields make, because of the fact that you're costing out to use a facility that's not a facility. You're just using the land, the land, and then your overhead is to maybe $750,000 for seating and microphone, AV system. I mean, it's not as much of an overhead because you don't have a facility or a building per se. Now, and to be honest with you, I think that it poses the main question of just simply this, we are using this bond for the first time in 43 years, and in this bond, there were projects that were proposed by the staff to generate those revenue that had private investment entered into this market, it would have been amazing. But because there's not such a high return on the facility itself, there isn't really a private market going to enter into it. And that's just the reality of it. But the indirect benefits, the anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million per court in a given year, even at a middle performance, and that's what that report is going to show you. Spend some time on the report, because those numbers, I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing driving that kind of revenue here. There just isn't. Honestly, Ford Park baseball fields is probably the only thing short of that comparison, and that even has its own limitations, and more money needs to be invested in those fields. And that's kind of where we're at now. You want to know where those players went, or where some of the tournaments went? Well, it was just maintenance of the fields and maintaining it, right?
Not only that, but the size of the fields had a lot to do with various entities not coming here. If they had just stepped a little bit further, then you could have had those other groups coming in.
100%. And the goal 1 of the strategic plan for the city of Beaumont, objective 3, is for Beaumont to be built as a sports tourist destination. And who's to say further down the line, the next bond comes up isn't for more of those bigger fields out at our athletic complex? You're converting some right now in this bond. And so I think that's the point. And I think that's the best part of this takeaway is that the city has adopted a strategic plan for the first time in over 20 years, thanks to this city manager and this leadership. And we are following that strategic plan.
Thank you.
All right. Lots of energy about what's going on with potentially parks in downtown. I think we want to get back to some discussion. I want to set the stage just on costs here. So we've seen 3 potential ways you could break out the bonds. The big question tonight, I'm going to slow down for just a second. The big question is going to be, do we have the right things in the overall package, and are you ready to move on? That's what we're going to vote on in a minute. Are there the right things and you want to move on? Then you may choose to give some advice to the council also about how they're structured, right? Downtown, parks, that option A, B, and C are an option that you come up with. In the meantime, just a reminder, $11.24 at 210 million. We're at 2.10.5. That doesn't really move the needle much. So that's on an average priced home in Beaumont, assuming that average price is about $150,000. That's how much they would pay a month. If growth stays steady, if growth comes in faster, people would pay less. People whose property is worth more would pay more. Okay? If you wanted to get down to exactly $10 a month, that would buy you about $194 million. Or $15 a month would buy you about $228 million. But again, at our last couple of meetings, y'all have kind of liked that $12 or so range. This gets us in under that. 87% of you all, the committee members, in one of our early polls said you felt comfortable at $10 a month or more. 60% supported $15 a month or more. If you look at citizens then, at the recent open house, just a reminder, 60% said they were willing to pay $10 or more. That compares to, in the spring, when we did the community survey, just 52% said they were willing to spend $10, and another 63% were willing to pay $5 or more. So again, as people have seen more specificity, seen more of what you're talking about, that willingness to buy in has gone up. So I think from that metric, you seem to be on the right track. We're ready to start, now really getting down to some of the voting. If you all are, are there any other questions before we, yes, sir.
I'm not ready to give up on golf because I think
Good.
the non-golfers are controlling the narrative.
Right.
Perhaps if we did something that was maybe less work on drainage and fairways and use a lesser amount of money, that may garner some support. And of course, there's some revenue that can be made. And maybe we hadn't talked about how much revenue we're making now with the golf course. And it's on Interstate 10. It could be a destination. I mean, people travel east and west on Interstate 10. If we had a nice golf course, they may stop. They may say, let's go play golf. I mean, that's how it happens in other places.
So
I'm not ready to give up on it, so
Thank
I
you.
hope that there will be some more talk about
So we've had talk about economic destinations for sports complexes, and here's the argument for the golf course as an economic destination. Comments?
I'm a golfer, and I love to golf, and I would love to do it, but just my thoughts. We put it to the community, and they said no. And if we're thinking about something, if we're wanting to pass it.
The community didn't understand. We may not have put it to them as well as we could have. You see what I'm saying? They need to understand what revenues are all about, and perhaps they didn't.
You know, Johnny, I'm not a golfer. A lot of my friends are golfers. I respect golfers. But the price tag, that's not, the people said, not us, that's not an immediate thing. It's not a bad thing.
But I talked about the price tag not being $24 million.
How could you talk to that? I mean, how do you know that? What do you mean?
Well, you got to look at how we came up with the 24 million. Perhaps we could come up, because that was a design of a golf course that was something that we really don't have here, maybe something else. That's a complete change. But if you're talking about renovating, if you're talking about drainage, if you're talking about the fairway, it may not cost that much. Missouri City is working on a golf course right now, and they're only spending $6 million. So I'm just saying, let's look at it again to see if we could come up with a better number, because I'm sure it can garner some support and it can garner some revenue if we just looked at it.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right, maybe I'll ask, I know that your Director of Recreation has been looking at this in light of what the committee has said in recent meetings and thinking about that. Would there be another solution? And maybe that would be a longer-term plan. You want to address that?
Sure. I think what we've seen from the community, what we've seen really from the committee, is that these numbers are probably just too big. They're just too high. So we've already begun trying to potentially find maybe lower cost, maybe some other options. It was mentioned earlier something about 300,000 or something. I'm not really sure where that came from. That's not really an option. The drainage study that's already taken place is what provided us with these options. To just come in and fix the drainage, we don't really even have that option. The course needs to be redone, as we've talked about, 2 or 3 times I've presented,
right,
to really just sort of beat that point home, that just going in and digging some ditches here and there aren't going to make a difference. We've got to redesign. We don't have to completely redesign, but we've got to renovate the course. So it's going to be an expenditure, but we mentioned Missouri City, and I know there's other cities that are doing things, and that's why we want to be able to look into what other options there are. Could that be potentially just coming out of normal funding in the coming years? Maybe it could. Maybe it could. That could be something. It was already in our CIP anyway, but it was, I think, FY 28, 29, something along those lines. So I think the potential is for funding down the line, but it's not something that's going to happen next year.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I heard this from not a really reliable source.
Every source is wrong.
You know how that goes. I've been told that golf course generates $28,000 a year in revenue for people that play golf.
No, it generates, I don't think that's the number it generates for revenue. It generates 20, probably the number that they're trying to tell you is how many rounds we get per year. We probably average anywhere from 20 to 23,000.
Okay.
So I don't know where the 28 revenue.
That's our income on that right now.
No, that's just the rounds that are played throughout the year.
So do we know what our income is from the rounds that are played?
We're not making money at the golf course. We never have. We've always had to subsidize it.
So what does a round cost?
It depends if you play weekday,
$10 or-
weekend. On a weekend, it's $34 for the cart.
34 on the weekends,
Yes, sir.
and during the week, what is it?
I think it's 27, I believe.
Okay, so
I'm always working during the week, so I don't play.
maybe it's twice that much. Maybe it's 50,000.
Yeah, and then in a study that we would do, if we were going to do the work at the course and do the improvements, obviously we would get that information from whomever, and we would determine what that rate is going to be.
I think 50,000 is one more, it's always hard to do math quickly, but I think if that was close to 500,000, or something like that.
As far as what the money we bring in?
If it's $30,
Well,
23,000.
I look at it like a business. So if I'm going to spend $14 million, I got to make a little bit more than $100,000 a year, which means that I may have to double the cost of the round to be able to continue. This thing's got to be able to continue itself, because after this bond, there ain't no big bunches of money that's going to be dumped in there for other things, maintenance, things that go wrong. We have a flood and it washes out a green, some of those things. So those are the hard questions that citizens have been asking me about it. And it's both people that play golf and that that don't play golf, too. It's not just people that don't play golf.
Yeah, the green fees would definitely increase. What they would go up to would just really be dependent upon what work we do.
Right.
That golf course is like a lot of other business we were talking about, is the number of people that travel in to actually go and play, the people that come down to be part of various tournaments. But the word we're getting, it does say municipal golf course. And when you think about that, you're looking for something that's reasonably priced where you could go and play economically so, okay? And the only advantage we have is that it's not the only golf course in town. We still have a few others, but some of the others are closed down as well. So we do need to give it some attention. We do need to think about that. Those of us who play the game or try to play the game, you know. But you could probably rebuild the whole thing with help my score. But it is something that people like to do. And if you're not a golfer, you may not have that great appreciation for it. But I know there have been times when you couldn't get on that course out there with the number of people playing it.
Yes, sir.
They had various tournaments that were taking place.
And we still get tournaments. We still have a lot of the long-standing tournaments that have taken place forever, and they're just so comfortable being there that they continue. And those things do still happen. There's a lot of junior events that have been out there all summer long, and a bunch of other things that take place. But the course needs some work. There's no question about it.
And we need to look at marketing. I mean, we could look at marketing as well, because that's how we get people to come to our community, is with good marketing strategies.
So we have a whole question coming up. We're not going to go straight to yes or no on the bonds. We have a series of questions. One of them is about the golf course. So if I could suggest, let's pick this back up then, and we'll see how people vote on that. The first question, if you'll go to Mentimeter, you want to pull it up? You guys kind of know the drill. Mentimeter.com. You can also take a picture of the QR code.
And this vote is just for the committee members, correct?
And this is, thank you for the reminder. For those in the audience, again, we're really glad you're here, but this voting is just for members of the committee. Just for members of the committee.
13, I think. 1, 2, 3. How many are
Are we at 13 or 4? Is one person in the restroom maybe?
He's here.
Mr. Beatty, yeah.
Yeah, it's 13.
Great. All right. So if you can, is everybody in? We'll let Mr. Beatty, we've got one question before we get to the golf course, so this will give him time to get back on the issue he really cares.
Johnny left us.
Okay, we have 13 of us here. Let's go to the first.
Damn.
Oh, there we go. This one's a little bit different because it's our final meeting. We're going to make it a little bit more formal, so we can show the council the record of everybody who voted. Mr. Chair, as we start on our voting, could I say, I know there are 2 or 3 members who are not here tonight, but
we have 3 that are not here.
Yes, and I know Mr. DeLuna was.
DeLuna.
He had mentioned that he was planning to be here. We did not hear from Mr. Neal, but Rhonda Raven, she did contact us, and she had to be out of town for work, but she had looked up all the PowerPoints. She really wanted to communicate to you all that she was very sorry she couldn't be here, and we spoke just before we got on, so she wanted to register in support of the sports complex, drainage, sidewalks, the golf course, unsure or leaning against the Riverfront Park, but supporting everything else that y'all had talked about. She also wanted to convey, Mr. Chairman, to the committee that, even if she didn't get everything she wanted, that if there weren't major changes, that she wanted to go on record of supporting the work of the committee and supporting the final decisions made by the committee tonight.
Good. That's great. Rhonda.
And we will follow up with her after this and make sure that she still feels good about that. But she felt very strongly she wanted to let you all know that she was supportive of moving it forward to the City Council. Okay, we have 12 of 13 in, and Mr. Beatty's out, so I think that should do it. Kara, can we move on to question number 1?
There we go.
Okay. I think we have the answer. Nobody's really championed these, but on all the other projects, we've gone through this process, so I just want to go through them here. These are the Tier 2 park projects. So these are the ones that technically are still in the maybe category. I think as your facilitator, it seems like you've kind of made a decision that you're ready to move on from these, but we want to follow the same process we did with everything else. So are you ready to move these into Tier 3? Are you ready to move these into Tier 3, meaning not in this bond?
So if you look on your sheet, it's those projects that there are 4 projects that are in tier 2.
What page was that?
That's on page 1, I believe.
Page 1. Yes.
And that's the community park in Ward 1, the community park in South End, the new neighborhood park pavilion, and the trails map. We've got 3 who voted so far.
And this is just to move it to tier 3, maybe.
This is to move it to Tier 3. So again, Tier 1, yes in this bond. Tier 2, it's been in the maybes. Tier 3 doesn't mean it's not important, but it does mean not in this bond. Not in this recommendation to council. And Mr. Beatty, did you get signed in to the Mentimeter? Kara, could you?
No, I'm sorry, I left my phone.
No, I see that. That's fine. If you want to vote on this is to catch you up. This is the parks projects that are currently in Tier 2. There are a few that are still in Tier 2. I think for the most part, y'all have kind of been assuming that those are moving to Tier 3, but we've never done that formally. So this is, are you ready to move those Tier 2 projects, not the ones we've been discussing, but the Tier 2 projects, are you ready to move those into Tier 3? And Kara, could you help get him set up?
So if you go to menti.com, menti.com,
and at the very top of this screen, you can enter in the code that's at the very top of the screen, but I'll also read it for you. That's 3835-6820. You're going to go to menti.com, hold on. You're going to go to menti.com, menti.com, and enter in the code 3835-6820.
Okay. So, well, now we're showing 14 folks, but somebody might be logged in twice. Can you? Yeah, okay. It should be 13.
12, 13.
13 votes.
It's 13.
Right. It's easy sometimes to log in twice. Can you?
It's set upstairs.
All right. Well, we have only 13 people voting. So let's go through it. Then we'll be able to check at the end to see who voted. But let's assume that that's just accidental for now. So, all All right, 92% say they're, now this does not mean we're not going to discuss the golf course. That's the only one that's going to come back and be discussed. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, those then are moved into Tier 3. All right, next, Kara. All right, now we're going to talk about the golf course. We've already been discussing it. Do you want to have a little discussion, or do you want to take a poll of the members first? Mr. Beatty, you made a good case. Do you want anything else you want to say about the golf course?
No, I'm done.
Okay. All right, let's see where the committee is, and then we'll see if we need more discussion or not. We have 9 of the 13. So we have 12 of you have voted.
13.
There we go, got the 13th. All right. There is some interest, but it's pretty overwhelming. Is everybody okay moving on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then the golf course is dropping to Tier 3 for now. Okay?
Now, let me ask something. If we added the golf course, our number of what it would cost a citizen would change.
Yes, it would.
By a couple of dollars.
Let's see. That would get it, if you added the golf course at 24 million with the inflation factor, that would get it to 234. So it would probably take you up to about, this is being really rough in my head, $13 and from 1125, somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
But it would bring the bond from 210 to
234 to 235, somewhere in that neighborhood. You'd still be under $15.
Yeah, but the other thing we have to consider is, like Katie mentioned, when the constituents came in, it really was not a priority. And of course, our concern is, although we can't encourage them to vote for it, as part of our advocacy, we can say we put the things in the bond that the community was ready to stand behind. It's not that I don't love golf, but the community was ready to stand behind it, and the golf course was not.
And the committee.
Well, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, could council, if they wanted to, include that as a separate line item?
They could, and you all could make that you're welcome to make that as a recommendation that you have concerns about the golf course, but that if they decide to include it, that it be considered as a separate line item, for instance.
Yeah. But I can see some people say, well, if you did that for the golf course, why not do it for the police department? You know, so we could, I don't know, it might just be a Pandora's box.
That's a big difference in the amount.
I know, I understand.
Right, for the police department. Correct.
And we may not be talking about 24 million for the golf course. I mean, we said that we could look at something that may come in at a lesser price.
Yes, sir.
That would be something that may be something that individuals would like.
So let me see if I can capture this. Then I think, since we're going to be making the report on behalf of the committee, what I would be reporting to council is that a strong majority of the committee felt like the golf course should not be going on, but there were some voices in the committee who felt like perhaps the golf course could go forward as a separate proposition at a smaller amount. And I know that the city has said that they're willing to look at that, maybe for the future, or would you rather just say, is it the will of the committee that no?
I think it's spoken. I think it's spoken. I mean,
Can you live with that?
It's spoken.
I'll have to.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We're moving on. Appreciate the tone in the room, really and truly. Very constructive. All right, let's talk about the police headquarters. Lots of discussion that we've had on this. So include $110 million for the police headquarters? This is what we asked the public, but we're now asking you. Do you want to include the 110 million? Or the third option in blue there would be do just the facility assessment and nothing for the money, or the red option would be include about 3.2 million for short-term improvements or urgent improvements.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
are either of those amounts already included in our 210?
They are. The 3.2 million right now, the 3.2 million is included in your $11.24.
And when we're saying short-term relief, do we have an idea what that is for the department?
Kenny may want to address that. He gave it a lot of detail, and because we were running short on time, I didn't get into it all. But this is a series of improvements. I've asked him, would the short term is probably the wrong word here. They're urgent improvements. And because I asked him, if you came back and built a new police headquarters later and some of these buildings weren't needed for the police department, is that a waste of money? And his answer, Kenny, kick me in the shins if I'm wrong here, but his answer, as I understood it, was no, because these are improvements that are needed, whether we use these buildings for other departments or for the police or sell the buildings. There are things like new air conditioning units, because air conditioning units have worn out. Repairs to elevators so people can move up and down, improvements to the record storage facility. Kenny, is that a good summation? City's facility director?
Kenny Smith, yes. Urgent facility needs is what we would consider this. So yeah, it would be upgrades, renovations to elevators to get ADA compliant, HVAC improvements, improvements on some of the issues of remodeling their facility that we use for their storage of evidence. So these would be urgent needs, things that, you know, as mentioned, if we were to build a new PD station, that it would be 2 to 4 years out. These would be renovations and repairs that would be making urgent needs as of right now, so it can get us.
These are top priorities then?
These are our top priorities. These are things that are budget requests.
Kenny, before you leave, why don't you tell the committee what that roof looks like over that brand-new real-time crime center that we've been working at and over dispatch?
It's in bad condition.
It's
urgent.
In terrible condition. Pieces of the roofing are rolling up and rolling back on themselves.
That's correct. So yeah, these will also be in those urgent needs to address some of those issues.
Thank you, Ken.
So he's itemized those. He's got a strong list of very specific recommendations there. And again, I want to apologize for short term, because we really were thinking of short term as things that can get done in the short term to carry it over. But I don't want that to be misleading, that they are not urgent and don't have long-term value. Okay. Well, again, there seems to be pretty strong consensus.
Nice.
Everybody feel good about that then, about where committee's spoken? Yeah? All right, great. All right, then option 2, include about $3.2 million, include the facilities assessment, look at what the needs are for the city as a whole and for the police headquarters, and in the short term, police get some money to do these more urgent repairs. All right, thank you very much. Kara, next. All right, we spent a lot of time talking about drainage. We've taken Molly's numbers and we've added some additional contingency that can go towards, making sure, because she's worked hard to develop these numbers, also towards additional project management and administration if she needs it to get these done. This will expedite some of the work. Much of this work has already been, all of this work has already been identified by the city. Some of it was already planned. This will expedite it. It will guarantee that it's happening because it's in the bond and not contingent upon a future vote at City Council. And it will, as some of you have said, perhaps make room for other projects to move in.
Very good.
There is some risk because of the COs if the infrastructure fails, but the city tried to identify projects that wouldn't undermine the overall package. And it's worth mentioning, just for people in the audience and reporters one last time, this is not the only place that the city is addressing drainage. The city is also addressing this larger question of drainage and sewer in a number of ways through other funding sources, the regular annual budget, COs, and grants. But this would be what the city's deemed really a critical piece to make that work.
Jim, what is that number? I like hearing that number that the city has. 64, 68 million, what approximate? 68 million, that's right.
It's about 68 million.
dollars.
Now, some of that has come from this, but that means, some of this has come from that, but there'd still be 40 to $50 million in additional money
Absolutely.
that the spending.
The people need to know that. That's very important. Yes, yes.
All right. How do you feel about including the drainage projects that we've talked about today? All right. It seems not wholly unanimous, but it seems pretty overwhelming.
Did I vote on this one yet?
Wait, I think she's,
What's going on there, Karen?
okay.
Hold up, I didn't vote on, hold up. Oh, here we go now.
Did we close out drainage?
I believe so.
Okay. All right, everybody feels good about drainage. Any last minute dissents? Okay. Now, so where we are at this point with everything that you've added in tonight and everything you've subtracted out tonight, we started at 1.35 billion. You have looked at what you think are the most critical projects that the city needs and whittled this down to $210.5 million approximately. This is rounded here, right? We'll refine these numbers slightly, but this is where we are, 210.5. So the question is, do you support recommending this package to the city council for inclusion on the ballot? And Kara, were we going to do a roll call on this or in the next one? Okay.
And just so I'm clear, I know what I've been seeing on the news is that 179 number, the change in large part is due to additional money for infrastructure drainage?
That's correct. The question was, the news reported 179 because that's where y'all left it going into the open house with a number of, there were actually a number of other projects you were looking at, so it could have gone up to 300 million. The real change here is in response to your comments, in response to the comments from the public in the open house, adding more money into infrastructure, specifically into drainage. That's the big change. Also adding a little bit of money into urgent needs for the police department.
3.4, yeah.
And we're also going to include that special comment that you made about the golf course, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is
being a separate, maybe a separate item.
that I think the direction is that the committee does not recommend a golf course on this bond, but if the council were to go forward with a golf course or some money, that you would suggest that that would be a standalone proposition. So that's the context. And we have, it looks like looks like there's some real, there we go. So, unanimous. Congratulations to all of you. That's a lot of work. Okay, and we're close to wrapping up, but we want to get a propositions. So, I want to have a little discussion here before we vote. We talked about, you remember, we kind of outlined just 3 potential ways to structure it that made sense to us. You could have 3 propositions or you could have 4 is really what it boils down to. And that means that, do you want 2 or 3 downtown projects standing alone? Or do you want, for example, to take the Riverfront Park and roll it into Parks and Rec, as we discussed, and then the sports complex and or the security cameras downtown stand alone as a separate proposition? A little quick discussion on this.
Yeah. I think those security cameras should be moved over into safety.
And public, and so you change facilities from just facilities to facilities and public safety and include or something like that,
Yeah,
include
because
cameras.
that's a public safety issue, and then that allows the sports complex to be its own.
Yeah, I'd support that, and instead of the downtown recreation or revitalization, I mean, I think what was sexy to all of us about the sports complex was the income-generating prospect. And I feel like the titling of that fourth proposition needs to emphasize that as opposed to downtown recreation, revitalization.
Right.
Yep.
So I saw a lot of heads nodding to that earlier when we were talking about that option, and I hear it now. Am I reading the room correctly then that your at least tentative recommendation of the council, I think we all recognize the council needs a little flexibility here, but that your tentative recommendation to council would be 4 propositions, see if I'm capturing this right, 4 propositions that would be infrastructure, which would be the largest. Second, or it might not be this order, but another one would be facilities and public safety, right? Animal control, police, and the cameras and the fire station. Then parks and recreation, the projects that we've talked about, and that would include perhaps the riverfront park. And then the 4th proposition would really be focused on economic development. However it's phrased, that would be the sports complex with the idea that it creates ROI and helps with economic development for the community. Is that capturing it?
Love it.
Okay.
I think you have to be careful because you're saying, you know, the first part, infrastructure, parks and recreation, and you're coming right back saying downtown recreation and revitalization. So, I mean, you're using recreation a couple of different times.
So what I'm hearing on the fly, though, is that we would clarify that, and there would just be parks and recreation, and then downtown would be wording, if you'll give us the liberty to come up with it, but I think I have the sense of the group.
It wouldn't be recreation.
It would not include recreation or maybe not even revitalization. It would focus on the sports complex for economic development or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Something that sells its worth.
Well, and it also allows us, the parks and recreation thing is in our neighborhoods. Those are directly to our citizens. So it allows that other economic development program to sit there and you to decide whether that's important to you and whether the parks in your neighborhood are important to you.
So if you vote for 4, that's what we would be voting for, as modified the way I've described it, okay? All right. Seems to be a strong consensus so far. And still waiting a few of you. Anybody having trouble voting?
Voted twice.
Somebody cheating over there?
Well, I had an opportunity.
Let me ask, so that I don't hold you up, is there anybody, because right now it seems to be, oh, there we go, 13. Okay, we're there. We're good. All right. Well, again, congratulations. So we've got a clear recommendation on the size of the bond and a clear recommendation on how it could be structured. And then, Kara, do we want to take or you feel good about where we are?
Yeah, don't be making us raise our hand on the camera.
Can I just I think we're already there, but it's good for everybody in the community to know we double check. So now we've talked about the amount, right? We've talked about how the bonds might be structured, and we have a clear recommendation on both of those. Anybody have any questions about those? With that in mind, I'd like to go all the way around the table and see are you in favor of completing the work of the committee and forwarding this recommendation to City Council?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Well,
David.
I knew it, David.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, congratulations. That's a lot of hard work to come out with a unanimous recommendation.
Yeah. What I'd like to say, the last thing before we get out of here, man, this is so new to me. I mean, you know, my background has always been in one thing in which you guys are included, a team effort. It's a team. There's so much expertise in here. And we utilize it for the city that we love, because the first question I asked you guys when we came together was this: why did you do this? And 100% of you guys that's in here right now said, because you want to see Beaumont prosper, Beaumont move forward. And I really thank you for your time and your effort for the city of Beaumont. Thank you very much.
On behalf of Gap Strategies, I mean it sincerely. We really enjoyed working with you all. Really enjoyed it. People came prepared, really shared their opinions. Thank you, and thank you, staff.
And I have one other thing to say. The city of Beaumont, June, where is Ken? He back there? And all of the whole city of Beaumont. Man, you guys are doing a great job. The mayor of Beaumont, thank you guys. You're doing a great job. And we appreciate the recommendations to be on this committee. Thank you, man. Yes, you can. Everybody. Yes.
Say, Ken, Ken, is this on? Can you hear me?
Ken, before you start, I know the chairman's already said, but I really do appreciate the enthusiasm and the interest that your staff members brought in their presentations, because it's always good to me when people are selling what they believe, and they seem to really believe in what they were selling, and I know it helped me a great deal.
Thank you, thank you. Let me ask staff to stand right now. Everybody who participated, staff. They put in a lot of hard work on this project, and I really appreciate them for what they did. And I'd just like to thank you as a committee for what you've done. This is a terrific exercise in government. This is a terrific exercise in transparency and how government works. This is how it's supposed to work. It's not supposed to be making all the decisions. It's not the council and mayor, and I see council member Turner back there too. I don't know if there are any other council members. But when people have a voice in what's going on and are able to make decisions and make recommendations, it's just great. It's just wonderful to see. And I really commend you for what you've done. You've been dedicated. You've been here. You've worked together. I know everybody didn't get what they wanted. That's okay. I wanted the golf course too. but that's okay. We got this done. And so I commend you, and thanks Jeff and Gap Strategies. Let's give them a hand for what they've done. They've done great work. So thank you, and thank you for what you've done, and thank you for participating.
Adjourned.
Cities cannot spend tax dollars to promote what has happened. They have to be neutral arbiters of information, right? Here are the projects that we have looked for, and here's why we thought they were important, it's up to you. That does not apply to you in the committee. You are free, unless you're employed by the city, and none of you are free to express your opinion out in the community about why you chose these projects and whether you think this bond is a good idea.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Right.
You know, Don, whenever